Hi, honey, how are you? Welcome back to the channel, or if you're new here, I'm Teknikolour. I absolutely love the world of Ondarian that's shipped with the Royalty and Legacy expansion pack, especially the neighborhood of Verdemar. Today, I'm sharing an updated version of the ye olde Voyager bar. Since Royalty and Legacy had released in February of this year, I've desperately wanted to find the inspiration to do a bunch of builds in the world of Ondarian. The only thing is, this build style, while I love it and enjoy looking at real life and Sims builds, I sort of blank when it comes to making something myself. The neighborhood of Verdemar, specifically, also reminds me so much of The Little Mermaid, which you may or may not know that I'm a huge fan of. I definitely think that out of all of the neighborhoods here in this world, Verdemar is the one that likely fits the aesthetic of Prince Eric's kingdom the most. Because of that, I've really wanted to find a way to find the inspiration to build something here. But it wasn't until I'd seen this concept art of a kind of beach house that I knew I could make something similar in The Sims. I'd set my eyes on the ye olde Voyager bar lot, and I had the thought that I could give it a sort of refresh while also adding on space for an apartment. Of course, you'll need businesses and hobbies to be able to get this lot to function as both a residence and a bar small business, but since I didn't see myself using much from that pack, I decided to just build and share this as a bar lot type. Feel free to convert it if you have businesses and hobbies, or change either the apartment or the bar to fit your own purposes. I suppose that I probably could have built this on a larger lot because I loved the look of the front of our concept art, but it was just too deep to fit here, so I rotated it a few times until I was happy. Truth be told, it wasn't until very late in the build that I had decided to make some minor modifications to one specific spot that I was happy with this side being the front of the bar itself. The front, as I liked it from the concept art, ultimately becomes the front entrance to the upstairs apartment, and visually it's stunning. This side also needed something to help bring you inside the bar, and literally all I end up doing later on is creating a bit more of a bump out to the doorway. But up until that point, I was not particularly happy with how this build was shaping up on this lot, and I almost considered moving it, or worse, abandoning it altogether. I'm really glad I stuck with it. Something about this build feels very strongly my style, and I don't know how else to explain it other than that. It also feels like something I would have built very early on in my building career, but with all the tools and knowledge I have now at my disposal. I really need to launch a new shell challenge because that felt like the perfect segue if this were a shell build, but it's not. I think a lot of people can get intimidated by building in games, and The Sims 4 is no exception, especially when we have so many packs. Plus, while I absolutely love the fact that actual Simmers are generally asked to create the official builds for the packs now, I also kind of fear that some of those contracted builders are almost too talented, that it makes it more difficult for newer builders to tackle a build of their own. Like, there's a reason why I chose this 30 by 20 lot and not the 50 by 50 palace lot in this neighborhood. And I have some experience building, though still nothing compared to people who have been building since the game launched. My point is that I honestly believe that everyone can build. I think that it can be intimidating and can take a bit to learn exactly how to build, but still, everyone can build. I think the biggest issue a lot of newer builders face is that they almost always start out too big. My very first build was a dream home build that I did with my boyfriend, and we chose to build on the von Windenburg estate lot and get-togethers Windenburg world. I have that video here on YouTube if you want to search for it and laugh. Like, it took us forever to finish solely because we made the actual house too large, and we still also had so much space left over on the lot It was a very interesting build, to say the least. But since then, I've learned a lot. And the great thing about The Sims 4 is that you are always learning. The fun thing with this build was that I was sort of forced to rethink my approach to it, since I had to rotate it to fit. Sure, I probably could have made it smaller, but then there also would have been too much empty space on the sides. What really worked out for us here was a few things. We had royalty and legacy at our disposal, obviously, but I also had decided fairly early on that I wanted to use the life and death pack. That's probably not that surprising, given that the life and death build style pairs nicely with this pack, but in any area that I felt like we were falling short with royalty and legacy, life and death picked up the slack. Unfortunately, while this is a limited pack build, it isn't just limited to those two packs. Sorry. The good news is that those are the only two expansion packs used. This build also incorporates one stuff pack, Romantic Garden, and 3 kits, Decor to the Max, Sleek Bathroom, and the newest Bridgerton collab kit. I'm really pleased with that selection, even though most of them are newer packs. I've kind of tried to share a balance of limited pack builds and anything goes builds this year. Oh, I should also probably mention that I'm currently on vacation right now in Paris. If I was successful, you'll be seeing this video on the first week that I'm away, and another video the second week. This way, I'm still sharing some sort of content while I'm on my vacation because I feel terrible when I don't have things scheduled to go up. Meanwhile, this week, days before vacation, I'm working on both of these videos and likely losing my mind and probably even missing a week of posting anyway, just so I could get these 2 videos done in time before I leave. Generally, in addition to these YouTube videos, I stream 4 days a week over on my Twitch channel. Lately, I've been playing through the 3rd Styx game, Blades of Greed, which is a stealth goblin game that I am kind of obsessed with. The cozy MMO, Palia, which I'm losing 2 weeks of progress towards the bulletin board bundles, and the really cute Pokemon sandbox game, Pokopia. I also usually do a build stream or gameplay of my Legacy Challenge, or both in The Sims 4. But these 2 weeks, I'm away. And honestly, I've been really nervous about this vacation. So I hope I'm having a great time and maybe even relaxing. Obviously, it's Paris. So I'm planning on cramming a lot of sightseeing into the trip, but I hope I gave myself a moment of chill. The past, year has been a lot to deal with in so many ways. For most of it, I was not excited about this trip because I had kidney stones, which I didn't even know they were kidney stones for about 5 months. In total, I was dealing with those stones for 8 months, and the surgery, my first, was a bit to recover from too. Thankfully, the urologist gave me the all clear for this trip, so hopefully I'm not letting myself even stress about diet or anything that could form new stones. Okay. At this point in the video, we've given ourselves a solid foundation for the build, and we're making our way upstairs to furnish the apartment. Something kind of quirky I did was give ourselves a sort of interior balcony. That's probably not even the correct term, but this apartment is actually open to below, where the entrance to the bar is. In real life, this would likely not be desirable for an apartment above a bar, but I don't think it'll cause any issues with gameplay. I know that with city living, and maybe for rent, you could run into noisy neighbors, but I don't think that's really applicable to businesses and hobbies. Again, this build doesn't actually use businesses and hobbies, so it's either a bar or an apartment, but if you haven't used that pack, you can make it into a working bar apartment hybrid. I liked the idea of the general space of the apartment being sort of open, with the kitchen and bedrooms kind of tucked away in alcoves. So the kitchen is over on this side, and that gives us space in front of that interior balcony thing for a dining area. There's also the tower space above us, which lets air and light in. Plus, I think it's really nice to enter into the apartment, and when you get upstairs, this is your view. I think it adds something, especially since the other side of the build is probably more desirable view-wise because you'd see the water. Though I do come up with a kind of a solution for that later in the video, which I hope you'll like as much as I do. Moving over to the other side, behind the stairs, I get to work creating a living room. Originally, I'd intended to open this space up even more so the bump out for the chimney would give us more space. Not that we needed it. But no matter what I tried, the roof was clipping in. I'm not sure if I could have come up with a solution by using different roof pieces, but I just didn't want to give myself a headache messing around with that too much. So I just embraced it and left it sealed in. This is also where life and death helped us, because I think basically every item in this living room is from that pack. I was going with a lighter wood color to match the kitchen cabinets, but when I tried these furniture pieces, I loved how the darker wood paired with the lighter fabric. I switched the dining room set out to match, and I think it was the best decision I could have made for this apartment. I'd also done something with the television and fireplace, which is a trick I do a lot, but specifically with this fireplace. I mount the TV on it instead of on the wall using the tool mod by Twisted Mexi. I know some people would probably say that the TV is now mounted way too high, but I don't know, I don't mind it. I also love that it covers the skull on the front of the fireplace, which didn't quite match the vibes here, but could be a fun nod to Verdemar's pirate history. This is also where I came upon the realization that I was essentially bringing down the property value by not giving us any real windows to see the stunning view from this side of the build. I wasn't entirely sure where I was going when I started playing around with different windows on either side and behind the fireplace, but this space ultimately turns into our bathroom. I end up removing one of the window doorways on the right side of the fireplace to give ourselves more privacy. Kind of needed for a bathroom, though maybe not in The Sims. But I loved the idea of how this would let in light and air while also giving this space more functionality. The bedroom is also where we get a bit more of the view, actually on 3 sides. I decided to use a bed from Life and Death and nightstands from Royalty and Legacy. Later on, we'll add more to this room because this is kind of it for now. But I think you'll like what this room ends up looking like. Now I'm starting to add some decor to that empty space behind the couch, and mostly working on the finishing details around the apartment. So I think this might be a good time to mention something important that impacts you as a simmer, and honestly, gamers in general. Electronic Arts, or EA, is the publisher of The Sims. And last year, they announced that they would be going private in a $55 million sale this year. This sale, though, is something that's called a leveraged buyout and will likely be explained by EA as something good. After all, this should help EA with their debt, with these buyers coming to their rescue and helping to keep the games we love, like The Sims, afloat. That's not really the truth, though. And there's repercussions that are going to be felt throughout the gaming industry if this sale goes through, especially because this could end up being the largest leveraged buyout in history. It's a big deal. If you're a returning viewer, you've definitely heard my position on this whole buyout and might be sick of it at this point. But if you're new here, I hope you'll hear me out. I think I should put this sale into perspective from the point of view of a simmer first. Currently, we have a lot of downloadable content for The Sims 4. Expansion packs, game packs, stuff packs, and kits. And as I know you are well aware, that all becomes quite costly once you add it all up together. Being a simmer can be expensive. And while a lot of people were holding out hope for a The Sims 5, and hope that the elusive Project Renee might just be that, It turned out that it'll actually be more of an additional game within the Sims franchise and not a successor to The Sims 4. There's also a huge possibility that we won't even get that if this buyout goes through. What's worse is that we could even see a lot less new pack releases and free base game updates. The point of a leveraged buyout is to have investors, or the buyers, assist the bought-out company with its debt. That investment, however, needs to be worth it for them. Otherwise, there's no point. It'd be more of a handout than anything else. These new buyers, Saudi Arabia's Public Investment Fund, PIF, Affinity Partners, and Silver Lake, are going to need to cut costs and pull back on the things that we want and expect, like new and innovative packs, bug fixes, free content, likely even the people hired to work on these games. Instead, they're going to be serving us shiny new monetization schemes, hoping that we won't notice that we're paying more for less. You know the marketplace? That new tab in your game that offers us maker packs in exchange for moolah, a virtual currency? Those maker packs can't be found elsewhere. And the marketplace is being paraded as a win for both custom content creators, the makers in the maker packs, and players, especially console players who can't mod their games or add custom content to them. Well, this is exactly the type of thing you can expect to see going forward if this sale goes through. You may not have realized that originally, when the marketplace was launching, they had pulled all kits, not just creator kits, but all kits from other storefronts like Steam or Epic Games. Their plan was to move all kits to the marketplace, and you'd more than likely end up paying a markup for that, since you'd be exchanging moolah and not your local currency for it. They reversed that decision after a lot of community complaints, but who knows what else could be in store for us should this buyout move forward. I fear that instead of paying their staff, the real artists working on these packs and free content updates, they'll simply use them as an excuse to cut costs. These makers, who are probably only receiving a flat fee or a small cut of the proceeds for selling their custom content on the marketplace, they'll either be responsible for generating new content or will either be given AI slop, and nobody wants that. Now imagine all of that, but instead of it just happening within The Sims, it's on a much larger scale because EA publishes a lot of games. This buyout could also set a precedent and end up harming more game developers and gamers, including the ones completely unrelated to The Sims or EA. Plus, if you do some research into them, these buyers do not seem to share the same values that The Sims does, meaning us as the players and the Sims team themselves. If you've enjoyed seeing The Sims 4 bring so much incredible representation to the game in recent years, please know that prioritizing representation will not be at the top of these buyers' lists. They could remove, limit, or even stop these inclusionary practices that we've become accustomed to across packs and free content updates. I'm going to share a link in the description of this video to a petition by Players Alliance on Action Network that aims to block this deal. If you feel so inclined to sign it, please do. But I do urge you to do your own research and see what you learn about this buyout and how it could impact you. Don't just take my word for it. Moreover, please reach out to your local representatives and let them know your thoughts. While this whole EA deal was announced last year, it's not set to pass until this summer, which is here. There is some good news, though. Members of the US Congress already have called upon the Federal Trade Commission to do a thorough review of the deal before allowing it to pass. Plus, those responsible for that petition I just mentioned have already gone to Electronic Arts headquarters in peaceful protest. While I definitely do not support this EA deal, I should let you know that I am a Sims partner, which is why you see that watermark in the corner of your screen right now. That means that I have been provided packs for free by The Sims, like Royalty and Legacy. I was able to check this pack out in early access over on my Twitch channel, in the hopes that I can help you decide if a pack is worth your hard-earned money or not. I was so excited to be accepted to the program because this game means a lot to me. I should also mention that as a Sims partner, I have a creator code, which you can use when checking out on the EA app. While I receive a small commission from EA and you receive a discount on packs for The Sims 4 whenever my code, Teknikolour, is used, you may not want to support EA by purchasing packs right now, and that is totally okay. If you do use my code, please know how appreciative I am for your support. But also be aware that just watching my YouTube videos and Twitch streams helps me more than you may realize and is free. I promise. I'll get back to the video now, but thank you so much for letting me rant about this whole EA deal, because I think it's so important and I'm really worried about what might happen if it passes. By now in the video, we've put the finishing touches on spaces we've previously furnished, like the living room and kitchen. But we've also spent some time really carving out space downstairs for our main entrance, and even made really great use of the space behind the TV and fireplace for an interesting bathroom. I definitely would not want to use the shower given how on display you'd be, but I think it's okay given that it's mostly the water here on this side. I was so excited when I had realized that this spot would be perfect for a bathroom. There's technically enough room on both sides of the fireplace for doorways in, but I kept the right side closed off for more space for the shower. You could, however, mount the shower on the wall opposite the sink and toilet, and it'll function. I checked. Moving downstairs to the actual bar, which, by the way, I can't believe I almost decided to make this into a restaurant instead of a bar. I don't know if I mentioned that earlier or not, but I'd actually started working on this build and then asked my Twitch chat if they were interested in me finishing it on stream as one of a few different build options. At that point, I think I'd forgotten that the original lot was a bar, so I'm glad that at some point we remembered and kept it as a bar. I think it's nicer and also eliminates another pack from this build. While the exterior of the whole place is very bright and colorful, I wanted to design the bar itself as a kind of dark and gritty nightlife spot. So while I start this segment off with lighter colors, similar to the ones I'd been using upstairs, very quickly, I start to embrace red and black. I really enjoyed the fact that the space out in the front, on the right side, is mostly open, but I'd envision there'd be people out there dining or whatever, which is where I assume I started to think of it as a restaurant. Now it's just more space for people to come and enjoy the bar, rather than having the whole kitchen set up. I also feel like this sort of color scheme and kind of hidden darkness speaks to the whole pirate history of this neighborhood. So aside from the main spot where the actual bar is located, the sort of indoor-outdoor spot and the entrance, I blocked off space for 2 bathrooms and a dance floor. Not quite sure if you could get away with calling this a ballroom, but if that tickles your fancy, go right ahead. Once I'd done all that, though, it became blatantly apparent to me that other than the open air spot, there was pretty much 0 windows at this bar, which I guess could make sense, but given the fact that we had the open air space, it felt wrong not including some windows. So I opted for a few of the same style we'd been using upstairs, but then included those other open windows from this pack in red for a bit more of a punch behind the wall that the bar is on. Then, because I'm me, I got distracted and decided I absolutely needed to decorate this spot outside now. I knew that the rest of this lot would be fairly minimal in terms of landscaping since I'd planned on paving most of it. But here, I knew I had to do something colorful and flowery. I think this is around the time when I thought about introducing romantic garden stuff and decor to the max, just to elevate the lot a tiny bit. I love this sort of half gazebo thing and the statues we have in the game, but never really know how to use them. So I tried to combine them in a fun way here. I think it looks surprisingly good. I figured I'd also fence in the area for the most part and put some actual flowers around the edges. At some point, I decided that I wanted to add mirrors to the wall, so those get included and sized down and played around with too. Not sure if I really needed those, but they're there. I started playing around with the flooring I'd been using as well, and ended up on this interesting hybrid between the sort of pavement and the beautiful marble tile. I think it helps add balance, so it's not just this gritty bar, but also has that elevation of, royalty to it. Represent both sides of Verdemar. The entrance, though, is my absolute favorite out of all of these rooms in the bar. When I was toying with the idea of this being a restaurant, the little spot in the back of this entrance would have been perfect for the host station. Here, though, I now had this massive space with no vision on how to decorate it. I'm not sure what made me gravitate towards this big curtain thing from Life and Death, but that kind of set off this chain of events. Add in some mirrors and that big peacock statue from Decor to the Max that I love, but I feel like a lot of people might dislike. And now you have this absolutely stunning bar entry. I think it works perfectly for this bar. Plus, it's the first thing you see when you pull up, so it sort of gives you a hint of what kind of bar this is. I don't know. I just really dig the direction this went in. All of it, to be honest. I don't know that this is what I had in mind when the concept art had inspired me, but this is what we have now. Anyway, now I'm mostly focused on the final touches for the bar and the lot itself. I said before how I didn't plan on doing much landscaping for this build, which I'm okay with, but I did think we needed some manicured spots. So I've added in a tree and some plants over by the residence's entrance. Obviously, you'll see this is where I really finished up the look of that half gazebo spot in the back, or side, I guess, with flowers, mostly delphinium and hydrangeas. I love the look of these flowers, and I used to use the delphinium all the time, but for some reason have moved away from them in my recent builds. I think this is kind of how I decorate in terms of flowers when I have a house and can actually do all of that myself. But for now, we're stuck with my cute little apartment. Actually, that gives me an idea for another build. That's pretty much the end of this build, though. So let me open up the game and give you a quick overview tour. So here we are in Verdemar, and this is the ye old Voyager. And as you can see, there's like kind of this sort of plaza in front of it. So you come up and this is what you see. And then, of course, if you keep walking a little bit over here, which I think makes sense because there's this whole pathway back here, this is the entrance to the apartment, and it is a little secluded. It's a little cute and quiet, so I think it helps separate it from the bar. To give you a little overhead view, we have that little outdoor dining area over here on the right, which is open on two sides. You have the entrance with that peacock right there. And then over here, you have the bar and a little more seating options. Back over here, you've got the little ballroom and two bathrooms. Then for the actual apartment, you come in through this door and you have just this beautiful little entry space, and it's very quiet. This might look a little bit weird over here that it's just like an armoire down here, but I'm kind of using it as like storage for coats and stuff. And then you head upstairs, and the very first thing that you see is this, and it is the view of the plaza right outside here. Obviously, you have the bar downstairs. There's the kitchen over here in the corner. You have the dining area, a chess table. You have a little reading nook and a piano. Then you have the living room. And I am very, very in love with this bathroom. You come in through this door, you've got the sink, you've got the toilet, and then you've got the shower over here. And you can see from the other side that it's all open and it's going to be breezy. It's going to be breezy. Over here in this corner, you've got the primary bedroom. And I just love this vanity from the Bridgerton kit. I think it's really cute and goes really well in here. But this, oh, I just think it looks marvelous right there. It's just so good. If you enjoyed this video, please drop me a like and then grab the build off of the gallery. To add it to your game, you can find it using my EA ID, Teknikolour. If you'd like to see more of my builds and other cozy gaming videos, be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you won't miss future uploads. If you want even more Sims content, consider dropping me a follow over on Twitch. I live stream my pack-based Legacy Challenge every Thursday, but play other cozy games throughout the week. Though, again, I am on vacation currently, and streams should be back on June 22nd. Planning on picking up Royalty and Legacy or any other packs? Please use my creator code Teknikolour when checking out on the EA app. It's free for you and supports the channel. Plus, my code can now be used on so many other EA titles, not just The Sims, though that discount only applies for Sims 4 packs. But thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you in the next video. Bye-bye!